Hi, I'm Jenny Lauren Dowden for Conduit News, and today in the studio we have Patrick Wolf joining us. All right, let's talk about House Bill 1371 that was sponsored by Representative Bragg, and he was actually co-sponsor on Senate Bill 680. That did not make it. Can you talk to us about why?
Yeah, it's interesting that bill, House Bill 1371, it also had a scholarship tax credit element, twice as large, $4 million, but it also set aside $6 million in tax credits for traditional public schools that serve a high proportion of income disadvantaged children. So that was sort of the agreement that was struck, was $4 million for private school choice, an extra $6 million for the traditional public schools. The thinking was that that kind of an agreement where everybody's getting new money would facilitate passage of the bill over the objections of some folks. And it didn't happen that way. It only garnered 41 votes, I think, on the House floor when it came to the House floor. So it failed in the House, and that was a major disappointment for supporters of school choice.
I think so too. You mentioned opposition to this bill. Representative Bragg has said that the bill's demise was ultimately they received pushback from superintendents. You and I have talked about the political reality and the landscape here. Talk to us about how organizations have that political clout and power. And when you have the Associated Superintendents Organization speaking into this and pushing back, what does that say about where we are as a state and in the course of education?
Yeah, there's a certain demographics to support for school choice in Arkansas and in many other states. Support is strongest in urban areas where there are lots of educational alternatives where parents can often choose from among private schools that serve kids, from among public charter schools, as well as residentially zoned traditional public schools, sometimes magnet schools as well. So typically in urban environments, there are a lot of options for families, and school choice is very popular there. Outside of urban areas, in many cases, the residentially zoned public school is the only school in the region. It's the only option available. And so representatives of those kinds of rural districts don't really see the benefit to their families, the families they represent, to expanding school choice. Now, I think there really is a benefit, and it's sort of one of those, it's sort of like a Field of Dreams thing. If you build it, they will come.
Right.
I mean, if there are choices
like
available to families, then alternative suppliers will enter.
Yeah.
And, small private schools will spring up to serve students in rural areas. But if you don't start with a school choice program, there's no enticement, an opportunity for alternative providers to come in. So the rural legislators are just used to representing a district that's dominated by a single public school. And so the superintendent of that public school is a very influential person in their district. I mean, basically, they are the largest employer.
Right.
In their district. And so they carry a lot of influence. Even for Republicans, and here in Arkansas, like in most states, the Republican Party platform explicitly endorses school choice, including private school choice.
Which I think was so fascinating, giving the majority that we had, and then yet it still did not pass.
Yeah, and it was opposition from Republicans representing rural districts, and it was the pressure that they received from the superintendent's organization in the state. So that was why HB 1371 failed, in spite of the fact that it included $6 million extra dollars for the public schools that serve low-income kids.
Imagine what that could have done to provide a different outcome for some of these students.
Yes, I've basically made my career out of evaluating private school choice programs, and they deliver a wealth of positive outcomes for kids. Test score gains in most cases, large improvements in educational attainment, which is the measure of how far kids go, whether they graduate from high school, enroll in college, complete college. Very big positive effects of private school choice on attainment. Also, it reduces the likelihood of young adults committing crime. And it also reduces the likelihood of unplanned pregnancies. So it has all of these cognitive and behavioral benefits for kids, even though the scholarships or vouchers that are used are worth less than the per pupil funding in the public schools. So it's less resources, but because parents are allowed to use those resources and choose the school, they can match their child with a private school that delivers exactly what that child needs, academically and behaviorally.
Which I think is a no-brainer, right? This should be a bipartisan issue when you look at the statistics and you look at the outcomes that happen for these kids who are in, states with school choice. Is there anything else that we haven't covered regarding these bills that you want to add?
Well, I think, the bill that succeeded, Senate Bill 680, was wonderful, because basically what happened was shortly after HB 1371 failed on the House floor, the supporters of school choice, were pretty demoralized. But Senator Jonathan Dismayne basically said, we're not quitting. We are going to take another shot at this. And he very quickly drafted Senate Bill 680, a little less money in it, but much more focused on promoting parental choice in education, and got that through the Senate easily, came to the House, and it got through House committee and to the floor. It was one of those rare cases, usually floor votes on legislation, they're sort of like professional wrestling matches. They're very exciting and entertaining, but it's determined in advance how they're going to turn out, right? It's scripted. This was not scripted. The supporters did not know if this bill was going to pass or not. And the debate on the House floor, which is fascinating, really interesting debate. And ultimately, the influence of their peers and their political forces in state government ultimately prevailed and got 52 votes for the legislation to put it over the top. They needed 51. They only made it with one to spare.
Barely.
So kudos to Senator Dismayne and for Representative Bragg, for really digging in and pushing this thing forward. I think it's a major breakthrough for families in Arkansas.
I think so too. Wonderful insight. Well, thank you so much for joining us in the studio. And to those of you who are watching online, we appreciate it. I'm Jenny Lauren Dowden for Conduit News. We'll see you next time.